Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Lena and this is my October wrap-up. Well, I haven't read all the books I hoped to read this month. Let's say that I read 4 Shakespeare's plays: Much Ado About Nothing, Richard II, Henry V, and Hamlet. And I have separate videos about that. Then I finally finished Decameron by Giovanni Boccaccio. Last month, Adam from Memento Mori hosted a read-along, Decamerama, and it took me 2 months to finish this book. And I read about the book itself a bit. I read a bit about Giovanni Boccaccio himself. And this book is a bit controversial right now, if judged with our background knowledge and our customs and our expectations. And it was a bit controversial back then. When he wrote this book, he was rather young, and when he was in his youth, I suppose he liked drinking, and he was a womanizer, and he probably gambled, I do not remember, but he lived this kind of full life. And he says himself that he wanted to entertain women who has no opportunities to entertain themselves. They cannot even hunt. They locked up at home, just thinking and brooding and maybe sewing, something like that. And when he was young, I suppose he thought that such stories can entertain women. But later on, when this book wasn't praised in the intellectual circles, when it wasn't accepted into the intellectual circles, he wanted to burn it. And I think Petrarca talked him out of it. And when he was an old man, he regretted not burning this book, but it was already too late. I suppose even when he wanted to burn this book, it was already too late, because this book became quite popular among the merchants as a collection of dirty stories. So it was popular. This book was famous and popular, but just not the way he expected it to be famous and popular. So, and I think in his letters to his friend, he advised him against giving this book to his mother and his sister. So late in his life, he changed his mind about this book, but it was already too late. And I don't think we should judge him too harsh for this mistake. This book it was the first time that stories were written about merchants and artists, about people who are not of high birth. And some of the stories were borrowed from French literature, from Latin literature, from early Italian literature. Some of these stories were told orally, so he just wrote them down and maybe rearranged a bit, rewrote a bit, I'm sorry. So he just collected stories that were popular at the time. He kind of gave us a glimpse in this time. What else? I don't know. I think I said everything I wanted. So we shouldn't judge him too hard. And this book was influential, I can tell you. It was my first read of this book. It was the first time I read it. And some of the stories I knew. So some of the stories were borrowed by later writers and authors and filmmakers. So it was an influential work. Then I finished the book Master and Margarita by Mikhail Bulgakov. I made a separate video about this book. I'm not exactly happy. I will probably remake it, I don't know, or post it the way it is. What surprised me about this book, I read it first at school, and of course I did not understand it. It was all fun and tricks and magic for me. And this book is not about tricks and magic, so it takes time. The story takes place in Russia, in Moscow, during the Stalin era, and there is an author who is being oppressed and almost driven crazy. There is his not exactly girlfriend, his woman, who is married to another man, who tries to support him, who is very dedicated to his novel, which he cannot publish, and because this novel is about the time when Christ was sentenced to death and was crucified. So it's about Christ. And the policy of in the circles of power is that that Christ has never existed, that there is no God. So he cannot publish his book, and he gets he didn't get arrested, but he is very much oppressed. And so this book actually not about the master, not about Margarita, but about Voland, who is a smaller devil and who comes to Moscow because he needs to give an annual ball. And this time the ball, this takes place in Moscow. And at the first glimpse, from this fact comes a lot of funny stories, but when you look closer, there is nothing funny about any of it. There is nothing funny about anything in this book. And there are a lot of theories what Bulgakov really wanted to tell, and why he made a devil his main character. It's a very interesting book, and it's very strange, and well, I will upload my video about it. I didn't like it quite as much as I expected to, but I don't think I was supposed to like it. I was supposed to listen, to think, and to understand. Sorry guys, there was an interruption right when I was telling you this, my opinion of the Acceptance by Jeff Vandermeer, which I liked quite a bit. So this is the third and the last book of the Thousand Reach trilogy. If you remember, the first one was about expedition into the so-called Area X, where nature takes over quite aggressively and in a very strange ways. So this expedition consisted of four people, four women, a psychologist, an anthropologist, a biologist, and of surveyor. And this expedition went quite wrong, so it wasn't exactly successful from the Southern Reach point of view. The second book, it was the book Annihilation. The second book, Authority, was about the Southern Reach itself, and was told from the point of view of new acting director of the Southern Reach, of young man called Control, and his conversations or forming relationships with returned members of the expedition we met in the Annihilation book. So some of them returned, just appeared into different areas of our world when to which they were emotionally connected. So nevertheless, it was taught from point of view of control. And the third book is taught, the book Acceptance, is taught from multiple point of views. I think the array X expands and very rapidly, and so the story is told from the point of view of control and from the point of view a woman he called biologist who calls herself Ghost Bird. From their point of view, because they found new doorway into Area X and they are into area, they are in the Area X and they're exploring, and they are exposed to this Area X and the way it changes people. So this story is told from their point of view. The story is told from the point of view of Lighthouse Keeper, which is a very interesting story because he is a very interesting character. The story is told from the point of view of the director, of the real director of the Southern Reach organization, whom we know as psychologist. And it's a very interesting story too. And the story is told from the point of view of Grace, director assistant of the Southern Reach trilogy, Southern Reach organization. And so we have these different stories and they intertwine, and we have this complete picture of the things that led to the creation appearing of Area X. And we are taught about Area X quite a bit, and we are presented with something that is called an open ending, which I do not like. I love to be told what happened exactly, because I can guess, but there is no way for me to prove myself wrong or right. I love to be told what happened, and I enjoy this book quite a bit, and I would recommend this trilogy to anyone who likes bizarre stories, strange stories. But it was quite strange. It was weird and bizarre, and it was quite interesting and very enjoyable. Well, I think that's all. I haven't even started my cozy read, and I think there is no point to start it now. Alice Peters, St. Peter's Fair, A Medieval Evil Whodunit, one of the books from the Brother Cat Files series. Even more, I haven't read the first book of Kings from the Bible as I had intended. I didn't have time for it. Life has been crazy, and one I started to read Istanbul, A Tale of Three Cities, but I'm sorry guys, one moment. But it's it's crazy the way I reject the story. It's the first story, the first non-fiction history that I try to read in English. And guys, I actually have to use a program that helps concentration, you know, the one with the timer. So every time I open this book, and the book is not to blame, it's something, it's me. So it's Istanbul by Bettany Hughes, A Tale of Three Cities. And it's very well written, and it's packed with information, and it information presented elegantly. But guys, every time I open this book, I I immediately want to check my emails, to check Twitter, to check YouTube, to make myself a cup of coffee, you know, to scratch myself. So first 20 minutes I made myself, um, I make myself to sit and to look on the page, and I literally do not understand a thing. But after that, I don't know, this 20 minutes pass, I make myself a cup of water and I return to the book, and it's all very simple, it's all very clear, and it's enjoyable. I have no idea why. It's difficult for me to open this book and to keep on reading. I guess, I don't know. Of course, I have no knowledge whatsoever. And when Bethany Hughes, she puts her story and things she's telling you about in the context, in the broader context, but my knowledge is so scarce that I need to Google everything. I don't actually use Google. I go to Wikipedia page. So when everybody else were learning geography, I was reading sci-fi under the table, so I have to look. When she says words like Asia Minor, I have to look what it is and where it was. When she says, I'm sorry guys, Balkans, I need to look where it is. So I need to look, I need to Google literally everything. But I think I will keep on reading. This book I will be reading for my non-fiction in November. And I might enjoy it in the longer run. I don't know. Thank you for watching and goodbye and happy reading.